Let's begin. So what we saw yesterday, from this one example, we saw the whole process of evolution. The three things: formation of new species, accumulation of mutations, and natural selection. How it was happening, and through example of this moth, we understood the whole process of natural evolution, right? How nature selected because of a certain change in environment, and we had eventually a new group of moths arising, right? So this was just one example. Today I'm going to give you many examples and you'll love it. You'll understand how evolution is actually happening. And I'm going to call you all scientists, right? So the scientists don't agree on anything just because Darwin said so, or anyone, even say Mendel said so. They'll require a proof. You require some logic and some proof to back what you're saying, right? It should not be just because only I say, I know it somehow, it happened to me in my head, God came and told me. We don't accept those things, right? We want proof. So today we are going to do the same thing. We are going to look what proofs people found out in order to support Darwin's theory of evolution. It's still a theory, right? So what proofs do we have? Apart from that, yesterday I forgot to show you this one slide, this very important line in your textbooks, which says that evolution is organizational. Is organizational means life categorizes itself into some different parts. It categorizes itself. These are 5 kingdoms. Life, you can see it has organized itself into these 5 kingdoms. Very easy. Evolution is organizational. It organizes life into different categories. It's progressive development of plants and animals from ancestors having different structural and functional organization is called evolution. Now, let us look at each word. It's progressive development. Did it happen suddenly? No, it happened over a period of time. That's why we call it progressive. Therefore, we call it progressive development. Development means life went from simple to complex. Like you can see over here, from unicellular to multicellular. It's developing itself. It's not regressing. It's developing. So it was progressive, which means it took time. It is developing, means it is becoming more complex. Of plants and animals, that's for you guys, right? It's just they categorized it into two parts: animals and plants. But you have fungi also, and you have many other things like viruses and all things. A development of plants and animals from the ancestors having different structural and functional organization, right? Now, who were the ancestors of these plants, animals, and fungi? Who were these ancestors? They were just unicellular organisms. These were just protists, right? Just one-celled organisms who had this nuclear membrane. They gave rise to this complex group of life we see around us. Ancestors is very important. Ancestry is very important when you study evolution. You look at who the ancestors were. Where did plants come from? Where did animals come from? Where did this fungi come from? They came from single-celled protists, single-celled organisms which had nuclear membrane around them. It's very fascinating when you look at like this. Now, when you see everything, you try to look at life through the same perspective of evolution. How does it fit? And you'll find very strong evidences around you. And that's what we are going to see today. What are the evidences? All right. So I want you to take your pen and pencil and write these 6 evidences along with a checkbox. I want you to make a checkbox as we complete. And once you understand, I want you to draw a check mark. See, guys, I know I cannot see if you guys are writing it or not, but this is how you are supposed to learn biology. If I was there in front of you, I would have seen if you're writing it or not. But I trust you, because if you're going to do it, you're going to understand it better. And I'm going to enhance your learning experience. I'm trying to make it as much interactive as possible. Like when you learn about morphological evidences and when you tick it or when you cross it like this, like I have learned what is morphological evidence, it gives you a different kind of satisfaction. That's why I want you to write these things down. Which one is the first? Let me just say it out loud so that you get familiarized with the word morphological. It's related to the morphology. What do you mean by morphology? It means external structure. Morphos means external structure. The second one is anatomical. Anatomical means the internal structure. It makes sense, right? Once we saw uh, what the external structure is telling us, and then we saw what the internal structure is telling us. Then we have this vestigial organs, which all of you know. I think I do not need to explain it much more here. Then we have paleontological evidence. Paleontological evidence. Paleontology means like you look at those fossils. And I think I've sent even a picture on Telegram group. It tells you how fossils are formed, right? So you have paleontological evidence, which is like related to fossils. Then you have embryological evidences by observing the embryos of different animals and different plants, and so not plants, different animals, right? So these are pretty self-explanatory words, embryological. And the last one is collecting link. This is very interesting. This is very interesting, and I know you will find it interesting because it makes a lot of sense once you see this connecting links. The first one, let's start looking at the evidence which we have, right? This is the morphological evidence. I try my best to put a lot of pictures, and so that you have a memory of it. You have a pictorial memory of it in your brain. You have this picture of what morphological evidence looks like, although you might find it in your textbooks. But I want you to see these pictures very clearly. Like this is the family of cats. It's Felidae family. You don't need to remember these words, but you look at their structures. Do they resemble each other? Look at their noses. Look at their mouths. Look at their whiskers. I think you'll find it very similar. Just a second. Now you can see tiger has stripes. You find this wild cat. You find this leopards. They have similar spots on their bodies. Even you have cheetahs. They look very similar. They have similar characteristics. How they look, they are very similar. That is one evidence which we give for more as a morphological evidence, which supports evolution. Like they are not completely same. You cannot say a tiger looks just like a cheetah, but they have similar characteristics. Their whiskers, the spots on their body, they resemble each other. Their paws, they have got paws like each other. They have paws, right? Even tigers have their paws. Even lions have their paws. Leopards. And these are the evidence. This is a morphological evidence. Just by looking from outside, you take a picture and you give this as a proof. Like, look, they look very similar. So we can say that they come from a common ancestor. They had a common father. Like you and your brother or say cousins, you look similar to each other. Like you can tell that they come from a similar same family. In the same way, just by looking at these things, looking at this cats, these big cats, you can tell that they come from a common ancestor. I hope, should we move further? Yeah, ears also. Yeah, very good, very good. You well pointed, man. Well pointed, Sanjeet. Now I want you to cross the morphological, or you can just tick it. Yeah, I've learned what is morphological evidence. Morphos means based on structure. All right, based on external structure. Now I have added another thing. This is a family of dogs. This is a family of dogs. You can see this. These are wild dogs, and I don't even know what their names are. But I want you to see how they resemble each other. They're not completely same, but based on their looks, you can tell that they come from a same family. Like look at their ears. Look at how their mouth is much more pointed than cat's mouth. Look over here. The mouth is very, it has got a long protruding, whereas the cats don't have that much protruding. They have just small mouth coming up, which is protruding. Their eyes are different. Cats have vertical pupils. Their pupils are different. They're how their eyes look. They're different than dogs. And one more thing, like I wanted to go and see on Wikipedia. Let me show it to you. I want you to see very closely. It might seem very complex, but hold on. Just look at what I'm showing you, right? Just look at what I'm showing you. There's a family called Carnivora. Carnivora sounds like carnivorous animals. So what I showed you was cats and dogs. They have some similarities, but they're not exactly identical. But they belong to a group called Carnivora, which means it has a group of carnivorous animals. Now I want you to see, this is the Carnivora. Carnivora is a common group where you have this group of cats and you have this group of dogs. Let's move further. Let's zoom in. Like, what do cats look like? What do dogs look like? Let's zoom in. And we find over here that this is the group of cats, right? This is a group of cats. And what else do you have along with cats? You have this mongoose. You have this hyena, right? I think here is mongoose. Here is mongoose. See, this is the mongoose along with the cats. Here, where's the cat? Cat was somewhere here. Along with mongoose, mongoose is related to hyena, and hyena is related to some extinct animal. We don't even know, it doesn't even exist, but we have found its skeleton and all. Here is the cat. So cat is related to all these animals over here. It's not in your syllabus, but I want you to just look at it, try to absorb what I'm trying to show you, right? So you can see now that the mongoose, which eats this snakes, is somehow related to cat more, but it's not related to dog, right? Dog is somewhere here. Dog is here. This is dog. Where's the dog? Here is the dogka family. The dogka family comes over here. This this is dogka family. Dogka family is related to what all things? Dog is more related to bears, raccoons. Raccoons are the things. You can just have a look. These are the raccoons which have black eyes with the dark circles, right? Look at these. A dog is related to this raccoons. What more? Skunks. You might have heard about this skunks. This is the animal you might have seen in many TV series, which it releases out this very bad smell. It releases this foul smelling substance and it repels its predators. So it is related. A dog is related to all these animals. And you have this red panda, right? So a dog is more related to bears, red pandas, the skunks, and even the interesting thing here I found out, I didn't know this, but it's related to even seals and walruses, right? A dog is related to those things. These are also carnivores, right? So just have a look at it, how things are related to each other. This is like a family chart. Whenever there used to come a guy, we used to call them, I guess, Harvey or Sarvi, I don't remember. But they have all our charts, who my grandfather was, who my great grandfather was. And this is a chart of like 1,000 years, 10,000 years, a crore years, lakhs of years and crores of years. When you chart who the ancestors were, this is probably what you'd find. It's like a calling. This chart tells you indirectly that a dog and a bear are cousins of one another. That's really interesting for me. That's really interesting to look that a red panda is connected to a dog. It's like a cousin of dog, but it's like very far away relative of cat. Although cat and dog are also related, but they are very far away connected. They're like, we don't even know my maternal uncles somewhere, but they are related somehow. Cats and dogs are related, but cats are more related to hyenas and all these things. Hyenas, this mongooses, and it's very interesting. I found it very interesting, and if you get time, go ahead and just try to find out connections, that which animal is related to what, whenever you have some time for yourself, whenever you don't have these classes and all. And I think I found it interesting, and I don't want you to find this boring or it's like a class. It's just an exploration which we are doing together. This was the link. I'll send it to you. Right. And the second thing, right? We saw the external features. If you found external features very interesting, please type clear in the chat. I want you to not sleep. I want you to be awake. Clear. I want you to type it. Leaves and plants and yeah, that's given in your textbook. You can read it later also. Like venation will be same, sir. Yeah, but you cannot relate to plants, right? It's just very boring. I thought instead of telling you about plants, I found out these examples about animals. There's a big mistake in your textbook, and it was there when I was studying science, and it is still there, and it bothers me a lot. Now, you have studied the external structure and how that could be used as a evidence for evolution. Now let us learn about internal structure. What looking at the internal structure of an organism tells us. And now I don't want you to, even the people who made this book, they don't want you to learn about where is the small intestine, where's the large intestine, how is the brain related to each other, how does the brain size uh, uh, telling you who are the ancestors. No, we don't want to go in that much detail. We just want you to look at their bones, because they are very easy to look at, right? Why look at bones? Because when you find these fossils also, you don't find them intact. Like you don't see their internal anatomy, like you don't find their brains well preserved. Although there might be cases when in permafrost you can find these mammoths, but these are very rare cases. So whenever you find fossils, you find their bones. So bones are the object of a study whenever you're looking at anatomical evidence, the internal structure evidence. Let's look at it. And it's very wrong. The textbook picture, I don't even want you to see this. It's very wrong. And I've sent the right picture in the group also. So I hope you have seen it and it has made clear, because from the textbook wala picture, nothing you understand nothing about how this evidence. So I want you to look at this picture. This this is the anatomical evidence. It's the same picture, but it is correctly represented. I want you to look here carefully. Just you might not able to understand that on your own. So I'm here to help you out. I want you to look at this bone. This is the first bone. It is a single bone. It is this bone, humerus. This is a single bone. This one. Before your elbow, you have this bone. It's this. Human has this bone. A cat has a similar bone, and you have this one similar thing in whales also. All right. Also, you find this thing in a bat. This one bone. Now you have a couple of bones. So we looked at this first bone. It is common. Now you have these two bones over here. This is radius and ulna. You find it in a human being also. You find it in a cat also. This orange colored bone, it's representing the same bone. In bat also, you find the same two bones. And then you have wrist wale bones. These are the wrist bones. They are clustered together in a group. You find them in cat also, in whale, and in bat. See, you find a similar anatomy. You find similar internal structure in all of them. And then after wrist, you have got all these fingers. Even a human has it, a cat has it, even a whale has it. Although it is different, like you can see how long the fingers of a whale are. And in the bat also, you find a similar thing going on, right? So this is what looking at internal structure tells us. This is up to what your textbook tells you. I want to go a step ahead. I want to go a step ahead and I want to tell you a very interesting thing. Look at this thing. It is supposed to be learned at your level only. It's just not given in your textbook. All right. Look at this. This is a lizard's limb. This is a frog's limb, a bird's limb, and a human limb. Okay. The limb has got a similar structure, just like we saw, but they're designed somehow differently. They're designed somehow differently. A bird uses its limb for a different purpose than what a human uses it for. Human doesn't use it for walking. Human doesn't use this hand for walking. It doesn't walk. A bird uses for flying. A frog uses its limb to jump, and a lizard, of course, uses it for crawling. So these are the things which are used for different purposes. The same thing, a limb is being used for different purposes, but it has got same structure, just like we saw. It has just this one bone, then you have got a collection of two bones, then there's wrist, and then you have these fingers. So structures which are similar, but they have a different function. These are called as homologous organs. Homo means same, logos means structure, organs, right? Same structured wale organs. This is another proof, like an anatomical proof, because we're looking at the bones. We are trying to get more information out of it, right? I wanted to look at the thing which bat uses for flying. Bat uses mostly this part of its limb. Its fingers are what a bat uses to fly. Fingers are what a bat is using to fly. Wing is made up of skin. It is covered by a skin fold, right? Bat's wing is covered by a skin fold. If you have looked at it carefully, it is made up of skin fold. Whereas a bird uses its whole limb, not just fingers. A bat uses it just its fingers, whereas a bird uses its whole limb to fly. Plus, it has got feathers. A bat doesn't have feathers. A bird has got feathers. So these are the things which are having a similar function, but different structure. Similar function, different structure is called analogous. Same structure, different function is homologous. Now, if it might be confusing, but just look at this picture and you might be able to decode the whole story of it. Is it clear up till here? We saw two things, anatomical evidence and first one, morphological evidence. I want you to scratch this anatomical evidence also. From the list, I want you to scratch it or just tick off the anatomical evidence if you have understood. If you have not understood, please ask it again. What do you mean by paleontology? I just told you. I want you to type it in chat. What do you mean by paleontology? All right, fossils. It's a study of fossils. Very good. Look at this picture. These are primitive organisms. We saw, this is really basic. This is very basic knowledge, that the organism which came first, it died. Then you have sediments collected over it. Then after some time, there was new organism. There was a new species in the environment. After some years, some 1,000 years, it came on the land. Once it died, it formed another layer of it. So you see, when you look over here, you have this water creatures, these creatures living in water, snails, starfish. Then you have these fishes. Then you have this reptiles and amphibia, crocodiles. They used to still live in water. And then you had these reptiles which are living on land. After that, you have this level of mammals, which is very easy. It's not very brainy thing. It's very simple, like how fossils are found. I also want you to go ahead and read this. Take a screenshot now, whichever is convenient to you. This fossil paleontological evidence, I want you to write it down again. This spelling is a bit different, but whenever you find something difficult, you write it down. You try to say it out loud. Paleontological evidence. Paleontological evidence. You can even write it like that. Paleontological evidence. Why do you find them pale? Because they are all dead. They are pale because they are all dead. Paleontological evidence, because they are fossils now. All right. Let's move on. Carbon-14 and carbon-12 is a very interesting story. And it's based on radioactivity, right? Carbon-14 is a radioactive element, right? It is carbon, but it has more neutrons in it. So what is carbon-14 and carbon-12? These two are isotopes. carbon 14 and carbon 12. And they are isotopes. I think you know what are isotopes, right? So in order to understand biology, you need to also understand chemistry and physics also, right? It's not a two alert thing. So what happens? How can you use these two elements in paleontology? So scientists found out that in living organisms like me and you, we all are living, right? So we have some amount of carbon 14 and some amount of carbon 12, right? Some X gram of carbon 14 and some Y grams of carbon 12, whatever it is. But when you're living, this ratio is constant. Carbon 14 upon carbon 12. See, you have mathematics in biology, right? Crazy. Carbon 14 upon carbon 12, this ratio is constant for a living organism. So when an organism is living, it's alive, it has got a constant carbon 14 to carbon 12 ratio. Now tell me, if carbon 14 is radioactive, it's going to decay itself into carbon 12, right? It is going to decay away. It is going to decay. That's what radioactive things do. Is it going to increase or decrease the level of carbon 14? Yes, not yes. I want increase or decrease. Carbon 14 after death, if it is radioactive, carbon 14